Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Kolt, and we're continuing our conversations in the Lansing School District. And we have the most loyal voter of the school district channel in the world, Alfreda Schmidt, who has been around this community for a long, long time. We won't say exactly how many years, but I understand you're celebrating a very important birthday coming up. Are we going to have a 90 party, Alfreda?
Oh, that would be fun.
It would be fun.
Oh, yeah.
But you're here today because you've always been a big supporter of the Lansing School District, either on city council or in any other role. And a lot of people might not know, have been engaged in the development of the bond committee and proposal. And what would you like people to know? We've already heard from Chris Swope, who said that almost half the voters in the May election will likely be absentee voters. So this is your moment to talk to seniors. Why should they vote for the school bond?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm delighted to be here, Mr. Cole. I do have a message, and it comes from my feel that this is just the right thing to do, and it's the right time because things are changing in the educational format. And as one who has seen some changes, I know that this particular one I think is a very good direct one for the basics of learning and a new approach of learning. And I do want seniors to understand. And then when you have people to explain the cost to seniors, that's very important, Bob.
Yeah.
And we all know that.
And really, when you say that, there is no dramatic increase because of an expiring bond. No, this new bond proposal comes in.
And you just said it for me.
Yeah.
Because that is important. It is in an expansion, more or less, but it's a little different direction. And so that's important for people to understand why it's important. Maybe they wouldn't think that just because it's asking for a little tax,
yeah,
that maybe I won't be interested. Well, but we got to prove to them and show. And that's why I said that would be nice if Bob would talk to me.
Well, I want to get your feedback because when you tell people a millage bond proposal in May would really be about a dime a day investment, it's really kind of small when they think of the value of their property and the improvement in the school district, isn't it?
Well, it's not only to our school, and I think that's one thing that I want everyone to, from my standpoint, to understand if I have an opportunity to talk to anybody. And I stress that it's important to the entire community. It's not just the school district. City of Lansing is not a huge city, Bob. So we unite, and we should unite. The more we do, the more we communicate with each other, the more we deal with programs with each other, is so significant to the lives of education, of children, of knowing that that's part of good habit-forming operation. And the city should do that, should show that. So that's kind of my message, Bob.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, but I see that the care about something that is really doing something for all ages, and that is when I think about the city. And our city is growing, it's doing vast things that do kind of fold in and stimulate education in the form that this pathway will take. And I think of this whole procedure that our good Lansing district has brought to our attention is it is a pathway. It's a pathway of a little different learning. It's a pathway for a little different living, and the combination that they're going to make with the city is extraordinary. And it's refreshing to think that that's going to happen. It'll only happen, however, if people like you and I, and anyone that's listening with us today, Bob, understands. Ask for your absentee ballot, dear seniors. I do it all the time. It works. But if you need to have any advice, you can ask me, because I'll come and bring you even the form so you'll vote. Yeah. But seriously, we anticipate that people understand that this cannot be ignored. This is the right thing to do. It's right for the school district. It's right for people, and it's right for our city, and it's right for the future. And this is something that people have to think. We're not here for just today. We're going to be here. I'm almost 90. You're right, Bob. But I hope to see this whole project in 10 years just blossom. And so maybe you and I can come back in 10 years and talk about
it's a
our
deal.
initial thing.
We'll do that. Well, and Alfreda, as you talk to others, there is an election for some districts March 8th with the presidential primary and another election, but seniors could get an absentee ballot as quickly as March 9th. So really, you want people to know that to apply to get the absentee ballot, and then make sure as soon as you get that to turn around and vote.
You've said it very, very well, because those mechanisms kind of come to us a little rapidly, and sometimes we're not prepared. Yeah. But I do think that if people like yourself, if we continue to talk, I stop people and say, have you heard about the bond proposal?
The governor signed into law a new law that prohibits school districts.
Yes, and he should not have.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
I was really stunned that he did that. And I'm a favorite supporter of our governor. I think I'm glad he's there, but I wasn't glad that he did what he did. It had no meaning forever. It isn't necessary. We can handle those kind of structures of people overkilling good procedure. I mean, that seemed to be the way. If I were where I could do anything about it, I would send every one of those legislators, regardless of what party they are, I'd send them home and say, you come back and you realize, maybe not even come back, because I'm not sure you're smart enough. It was a wrong thing to do. I don't see anything that's good about it.
Well, we hope that there may be a change before the May election, but if there is not, what it means is that while the school district can't communicate or answer questions, the public will. So your role will become even more important.
Even more. That's a very, very good point, and I think every one of us, our earlier committee, those people were very serious about maintaining this direction and formulating this bond proposal, as I am.
Well, I want you to talk a little bit about that, Alfreda, because you were at really the genesis of this bond proposal that people will vote on in May. And the committee that made the recommendation came a long way. You thought about a lot of things before you really moved and supported this bond proposal. So tell me a little bit about the process, and then how you actually came to, as a group, come together to support this proposal on the ballot in May.
That's a very, very good question, Bob, because we were all different. I knew very few of those. They were all from different walks of life than I am. And I was probably the most political identity of thinking in one way or the other. I came away absolutely, totally different. So it is communication. That's, to answer your question, it was communication, because each of us had our backgrounds. And I come from county government and then a city government. And so that was just one example of putting that way of which addressing an answer in one way. Other people were from activities in other parts of the city, and some were, I think I was the oldest. So
you?
I think I was the But that was a mix, and so to answer your question, how did we come to the final? It was realization that this direction was too costly. I simply wanted to dramatize that Don Johnson's place should be the Citadel. It should play the huge role in our whole program. We couldn't afford that. It was that sort of adjustment that you have to, as an intelligent decision makers, you have to realize that you can't always have your way, even though you feel as if it might have been the best way.
Yeah.
And I still would say that, but it changed my mind.
Yeah. Just to provide some background for people, the dramatic increase or improvements in the Don Johnson Fieldhouse was actually taken out of the bond proposal, just because you and many others looked at the cost and said, well, maybe not now, maybe not in this first step. Well, most of the other facilities, you have to admit, in the Lansing School District get a big investment and upgrade, and that's something you were able to accomplish.
And we saw that, and that was true because we all had little parochialism about maybe part of the city, and that's not always the best, an overwhelming decision to be made. And that's where it came to surface that you could not afford to be selfish, because that's not right for the entire city. We're talking again, Bob, when people want to think about what they're doing, if they don't vote, they're going to be, I think they will regret that they didn't help the city to grow in the educational platform that is available through this system. I never heard of such a system. I went to a school in Dansville, and it's almost, a one-room schoolhouse. And so you think, well, I went to college, and that was different. And this is different. My children went to Catholic schools, and that's different. And so we've got a good measure of degree, I think, in this bond proposal. I don't think that they overlooked anything. The board was they were good listeners. And that was important to us because everybody felt that, I think they did, that their decision may have been the better ones.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way. And we've got something I think that we can be proud of. And we can weigh in on the implants of these issues in a broad way. And that's important. We're not talking just about this part of the city. We're talking about the entire city.
Yeah. And your bond committee, as you looked at the Lansing Pathway Promise bond proposal, you really did a deep dive into an analysis of each building, what would be needed for the future, and determined the right amount that would make sense to people. And when you talk to folks about making an investment, do you think they understand that this is a big investment in our future and their children?
I think that's one of the roles that we should emphasize altogether. And if I haven't mentioned that, that's right. It is an investment for the side. It's not just for the schools. It's for that area on which that school is settled. We're used to neighborhood schools.
Yeah.
That's all right. But you still are those children in that neighborhood school going to another school in another section and have another exposure. And you must acknowledge that their experiences are going to be different. And so for those of us who said, okay, we're going to think about Don Johnson's building, but we're not quite prepared to anchor it as one of the things that payment coming out of the bond proposal cost.
Well, and with your experience in the city, and you've been an elected official, as you said, in various areas, what do good schools mean to a city or a community? It must add great value.
Well, it is exactly that. It is an investment. That's what, and that word under investment. Some of us might be selling our house. What's the investment in that house? How do people feel about the quality of education when they invest in that new house that they came maybe to buy? And so it's those sort of things that, as you mentioned, They are very, very important. They all match, don't they?
Yeah.
They all kind of in the same basket. And so you've inspired me so much more to do. I have arranged for some of our neighborhoods people to know more about our topic about this, and they all are anxious
Good.
to know more about them. Not so much the cost, but more about, because it is different. There are different subjects for each school. Some are more greater than others, and so what do I do? Do I start with my third grader and think that the pathway is going to take me in a little different, my child, my family, in a different direction that I wasn't anticipating? Those are the thoughts that I think those people are going to see when they come, and as you say, what does that mean to the value of what decisions we make on this?
Well, and I think you must feel, as someone who's done a lot of analysis, that unlike a place like the city of Detroit that has a school system kind of in turmoil and in debt, you compare that to a place like Lansing that has a balanced budget, a great bond rating, a big surplus comparatively for a school district that's well managed. You really say, okay, well, you've earned our investment. And that's kind of the message that you have to pitch and share with other voters, isn't it?
It's true. It's true, because you are accurate in that. We have benefited from the structure of the people that serve on our district school. They are conscientious people. I was so impressed. I did not come thinking that I was going to experience that. I thought they might be a little flaky. They're not flaky. What do I mean by that word? I meant in terms of being, because some of them have been there like me for too long a time, maybe for me. But it is a role that is essential to you and I. I mean, I am anxious that everyone understands that they are a privilege to make a decision so necessary for the city, for the school district. And the school district has put in just so much. They are so conscious of what their role is. You work with those people every day. I'm impressed by them.
Yeah.
They're serious people.
Well, they're terrific.
Not flaky. Not flaky at all.
Well, now here's your pitch. You get a minute or so to make your pitch to voters in the school district and in the community to vote for May. Because, I'm not actually allowed to do that here, but you can say anything you want. So go ahead, Alfreda. Now's your time. Make your pitch. Why is it important to vote in the bond election?
All right, Bob, I'm going to read to you exactly what I wrote on my little piece of paper last night, that it seems important that one should weigh in on this important issues as of the Lansing School District has brought to our attention. And they were asking the citizens to vote on a $120 million bond proposal called the Lansing Pathway Promise, and they're asking it to, and will be held on May the 3rd. Reserve that date and talk, if you would, ladies and gentlemen that are listening to Bob here and myself, that it is kind of it's an obligation, I guess I would say to that. And if I were to talk to each and every one of you people that are listening to this program, I would say, please do not hesitate to vote absentee or go to the polls, because your future for your families, your future for your grandchildren is all in education. Education is the means for you and I, grandmas and grandpas and sons and daughters and so on, can communicate. And it's the way in which they're educated is what will make the difference for their lives to be far more successful. And so do not ignore your responsibility. And that would be my message, ladies and gentlemen, that you have that obligation to your families and to your city and to your government and to your Lansing School District to be good citizens, be proud, and encourage other people to be proud, hold that as dignity. That is important. Please don't ignore that.
Words of wisdom shared by Alfreda Schmidt. It's great to see you and have this conversation with you. I'm Bob Kolt. We're going to continue our conversations with bright people like Alfreda Schmidt in the Lansing School District.